Yep. If everything is fine, we should be live now.
Okay.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Anyone listening to this from wherever. And welcome to another episode of Everything Outside Code. And today I have a wonderful guest. I have Kyle, and we'll be talking about everything on the business side of code. So the typical boring stuff, but really, really important bits. This is a very casual conversation as usual. So if you're listening, feel free to leave a question or just leave a comment or just say hi and tell us where you're listening from, wherever in the world you are. So I'll pass the mic to Kyle. You could just introduce yourself, man. And
Yeah.
it's good to have you on the stream.
Thanks for having me, William. Hey, everyone. My name is Kyle, originally from Atlanta, Georgia. Grew up there, went to Georgia Tech for undergrad university, studied computer science. And while I was in college, I actually got an internship at Twilio, which is a cloud communications company that allows people to embed communications into their applications. So whether that be like text message, like phone calls, all those things. And so I worked there as a software engineer for about 3 years. And but when I moved to San Francisco, um, I moved in 2017, and it was my best friend and I. We moved at the same time. We both had jobs in the Bay Area, so I was working at Twilio. He was working at Accenture, and but we didn't know anyone. It was just us two, and so we were trying to build community. And so we started throwing these parties that I was telling you about, William. So we started
Yeah.
throwing events. So we would like go to every club we know. We would ask them if we could host events there. Some were like no because they didn't know who we were, and some were like yeah, and we were able to negotiate like you know if we couldn't, we would try to negotiate like the admission at the door, so that we would get some of the like we would get a cut of the admission. Sometimes we would negotiate a bar split, meaning if we sell over a threshold of drinks, if like the bar gets say over like $3,000 in sales, then
Hmm.
it will give us like a percentage of that. And so what it all came down to was traffic, right? Getting people to the event to really, because
Yeah.
if you get money at the door, if people come to the event, that's money for you, that's money in your pocket. And then if you can
Yeah.
get people to buy drinks and people that are in the club, they that's money in your pocket as well. But we had this challenge where so we were using Eventbrite, and people could register. We did like free before 10 RSVP, so people could register for the event and basically get free admission. And that's kind of like, if you think about like a sales funnel, right? That's your top of
Yeah.
funnel. Just get
Funnel.
free
Yeah.
admission, but they're gonna get a drink. They're gonna pay for a drink. You're just trying
Yeah.
to get them in the club.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so and so we would have this free before 10, and we would get so many people that would register, like maybe like 100 to 150 people. But then the day of the event, it's like you would only get a small percentage of that. And I think that's natural. Just
Yeah.
with the, in general, people are flaky and all of that. But
Yeah.
it was just one of those things, like, are people not excited about our events? Do people forget that it's not going, or did people forget that it was happening? All these different things. And so my friend and I was like, oh, I worked at Twilio, and I know Twilio, and I was a software engineer on the messaging team, actually. So this is like my
Yeah.
team. And
Yeah.
so I knew a lot of the use cases that people and businesses were using Twilio for. It was for, text message marketing and things like that. But it was in different verticals and different industries. So I was like, why can't we bring this to like the entertainment slash hospitality industry? So like
Okay.
so it started off as just us um kind of like doing this. Basically I wrote a script that would connect. So Eventbrite has an API, and they have like
Hmm.
hooks that will allow you to get certain events. So whenever someone registers, or even when someone checks in, right? So they have these APIs that you can use. And so I was like, okay, what if we created just a basic? We would get that information. We would create a basic flow where we get that information, and then we can actually text our the person that registered for the event, right? And we can say,
Yeah.
hey, thanks for registering. Just be a high touch. It will be more high touch as opposed to just
Yeah.
like them register and then we just hope and pray that they show up. And
Yeah.
a cool thing that we did was, so this is just like a regular script. This wasn't a platform. This is before the platform. This is just like a one-off thing that
Hmm.
we're like, hey, let's try it and see if it works. And then the day before the event, what we would do is send a reminder text, but it wasn't just your standard reminder text. What
Okay.
it was we would send Spotify playlists. We would say, "Hey, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Here's a Spotify playlist to help you get ready." And especially for women, I think they really enjoy that. Like guys, it doesn't take us
Yeah.
that long to get ready. I feel like for women,
Yeah.
this, they listening to music while they're doing their hair, all these different things. And so we did that, and that got people loved it. And we saw a higher turnout because either it felt personalized too, and I think a lot of people didn't know. I think still a lot of people don't know that a lot of the text messages you get with your name that say something like "Hey William," like people think it's actually
Yeah.
someone on the other end that's texting you. Meanwhile, it's actually all like
Like,
automated.
yeah. Like, yeah.
But people like that personalized touch, and
Yeah.
so we saw people like our RSVP conversion rate of people RSVPing to actually showing up would increase. I don't have like exact numbers for you, but like just
Yeah.
empirically we noticed that
You
we
just
know
notice that a lot more people showed up after you did those.
exactly. And so then I was like, okay, we can't be the only people with this problem. There's other event organizers and event promoters out there that I'm sure
Hmm.
have the same problem. Because I think people are just flaky in general, and people may
Yeah.
people RSVP for the free spot just to make sure they don't have to pay at the door, just in case they do decide they want to show up. And
Yeah.
and so this is around like 2019. Yeah, like I would say the end of 2019 when we like were doing this.
Hmm.
And so after that, we're like, okay, let's actually build a platform around this. Well, before we decided to
Hmm.
build a platform, we're like, okay, do other people have this problem? And
This
so
problem.
we
Yeah.
got on the phone with like there are a bunch of like DJs and party promoters in the Bay Area. There's this one guy, Flygerian Jeff, and he does parties in Oakland actually. And so we were talking
Okay.
to him, and he had DJ'd some of our events before, but he does his own parties
Yeah.
under his brand United Tribes of Africa. And so he
Yeah.
does mainly Afro beats. He's been doing like I'm a piano events, things like that. And so he also mentioned he's like, "Oh, this would be so cool." And so at that point, we actually built out a platform, and so it's called Event-X. What it is a text message marketing platform that makes it easy for event organizers to promote future events to their past attendees. And so that's
Hmm.
essentially, and I have a day job and all that stuff, but this is a side project that I did with two friends
Yeah.
over the last 4 years. And a few weeks ago, we actually eclipsed $100,000 in all-time revenue, which was like a huge milestone. And it's just really cool. We don't take any money home from that. We just we
Yeah.
kind of reinvest it back into the business. But man, William, we've tried it all. Like a lot of the strategy for us to grow is either word of mouth
Hmm.
or just like code outreach, where we like
Okay.
we learn about sales. We've even tried like ads. Those
Yeah.
were effective for us, or maybe we just didn't know what we were doing. But we spent
Yeah.
money on ads trying that. We hired like a salesperson part time that would work like a few hours a week that would like prospect event promoters. But that also didn't work out. So the our
Yeah.
biggest of like lead generation is yeah, more so just like cold outreach to people. And we'll get some big fish. So basically
Yeah.
our biggest customers are like these people that we reached out to cold. And there's one guy, he does beer festivals across the United
Hmm.
States, and his wife
Wow.
does wine festivals across the United States. So they use
Yeah.
our platform and they drop like $1,000, $2,000 at a time. And like before
Wow.
that, we would get maybe like $100 at a time here and there. But
Yeah.
once they started coming on, it's like they're just at such a bigger scale, and it was like really interesting to see like how you can go up funnel or up
Yeah.
market when it comes
Up
to
market. Yeah.
up market when it comes to that. So yeah, I've learned a lot through this process. Happy to like dive deeper into any other
Yeah.
any like components of that you have, but that's just the high level of me and what I do.
Yeah. That's interesting. That was really, I would say, broad intro all the way from college to to like, starting the business, starting the company. I guess the one bit that I would like to learn about is what did you do first? So after you figured out, oh, maybe someone else has this problem, you spoke to like a bunch of like promoters and DJs and you know folks like that. What's the first thing you did? Did you like get to like software development, or did you try to do it like manually to say, hey, uh, let's do this the same thing you've been doing manually without a platform, let's do it for you, and then you test it out to see if it's profitable, or did you just get straight to building stuff?
Yeah, and so we probably didn't do the right thing, but we kind of went straight to building because it's like we knew it worked for us, and
Mm-hmm.
and so we just kind of like, so we knew it worked for us, and we, after talking to like event promoters and things like that, like
Yeah.
it sounded like they also had the same problem, and we explained the solution to them, and they were also
Mm-hmm.
excited about it. And so we went into build mode. We could have done the manual, we could have gone the manual route, but I guess we were just like, hey, let's just get it,
Yeah.
just get out an MVP and go from
Yeah.
there. But since we built the MVP, we've gotten feature requests along the way. And for paying customers, like, we're prospecting people, like new people that
Mm-hmm.
we sell to, they may say, oh, well, do you have this feature? And that if we don't have it, that may be a deal breaker for them. But we always want to
Yeah.
get a commitment, some kind of commitment, like, hey, if we built
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
are you gonna actually be a paying customer?
Yeah.
Because if you're not, we just kind of wasted our time. And
True.
maybe not wasted our time, because maybe it is a valuable feature that other people could use. But when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to like prioritization, things like that, we definitely want to
Yeah.
prioritize the people that are paying us over people
Yeah.
that aren't paying us. But yeah, we
Yeah.
we mainly just got to building, and then basically gave because building an MVP for something like this wasn't really difficult.
Yeah.
It's a standard web application, and we have Twilio in the background and the Eventbrite API, but that's essentially what it was.
Yeah. Um, Definitely. Like I used to be product manager, and
Mhm.
whenever I get like requests from sales, because they always have like they need something to close a deal. It's like,
Yep.
hey, this
Yep.
prospect
Yep.
needs this thing to close. And I'm like, oh, can the prospect commit to like some dollar amount? If they really need it that bad, can they, put their money where their mouth is and get it? We get some form of commitment from them. Most times, yeah, obviously, nothing
Yeah.
comes back. It's like, yeah, if we build it, they're going to buy, and we just have to decide if we build it or not. We did build some of them, and folks didn't buy. Like people didn't buy. They will always come with like some other request or some other thing,
Yeah.
blocking, definitely blocking them from buying. I'm really curious here. So this seems like a very like important problem, and it's supposed to be commonplace because, like personally, when I see like events, either like a new place or in Oslo where I live, if it's free to RSVP, I just RSVP because I
Yep.
want to have options. I want to have options on like a Saturday night. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I want to make sure if I'm going out, there's like three or four places to go. Maybe one place like catches my attention because they have like ads someplace or someone else talks about it. I think if someone else mentions the event, then I'm most likely going to, go there.
Right.
If I hear like favorite DJs playing, then I'll end up there. So I would guess that from promoters to club owners and bars, they struggle with this. So I'm curious as to why they're not buying. Do they use like an alternative solution? Do they already have like maybe something baked into their process, or their marketing strategy doesn't involve like SMS of some sort? They just get foot traffic and call it a day.
Yeah. So a lot of people is either foot traffic or just like posting on social media. And
Hmm.
so if they're posting on about their events on social media, but one, not everyone has social media, right? And then
Yeah.
two, it's like people can miss it, especially with like Instagram algorithm. You never know what
Yeah.
content you're gonna see, right? It's not chronological. And so
Hmm.
if you're not like a popular, I feel like if you don't really have that kind of like gravity on Instagram, then people might miss that you're having an event. And so
Yeah.
I feel like, so our value proposition to them is like, hey, people aren't really checking their emails like that, especially if you're sending it, because a lot of people have mailing lists, like for their email mailing list,
Oh.
but and they send out like, hey, they promote their events to their mailing list, but It's just kind of like one of those, especially with
Yeah.
Eventbrite has that feature. Like they don't have a text message feature,
Hmm.
but they have
Okay.
the email feature. But emails often go, especially those kind of emails, they often go
Yeah.
to like your promotions folder
Promotions.
or
Yeah.
spam or something like that. And
Yeah.
so people never see.
Plus, yeah, if I get like an email about like, a club event when I'm like doing business, I'm looking for like business emails. It's like the context switching is like just a lot. I don't think I would
Exactly.
pay attention to that. I see there's this place I went to in London one time. I still get like emails from, I think it's Early Lounge, that's what it's called.
Uh
And I think the emails just bug me. I mean, I think they would be nicer if I saw them on like, I don't know, Instagram, but not like in my emails. For
Yeah.
some reason, I have like my like personal email there. So I just see like Lola from Early Lounge
Yeah.
every other Friday.
I
And
don't
it's
even.
just like unwarranted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing with SMS too. I do think, there are the same
Hmm.
drawbacks to where, say you signed up for like an event and they collected your phone number, like
Hmm.
like how event-x kind of works. Because the way it works is that people on Eventbrite, on the order form, you're able to actually add a phone number field, collect phone number. Most people don't even know that. And
Yeah.
but you can add a cell phone field, and you can either make it required or you can make it optional. But a lot of people don't know that. But once you collect phone number, like that, your contact information is literally gold
Hmm.
to a party promoter. Because that's like that's their source
Yeah.
of, like, okay, how many people can I promote this event to?
Yeah.
And so with that, like if you sign up for it and they have your information, like you can opt out of SMS, just like similar to email. And so you do
Hmm.
find the same problems where, okay, if the messages aren't relevant to people, they're just gonna automatically
Hmm.
opt out. But at least as a party promoter, you have a direct relationship with the customer. You don't, like,
Yeah.
people are always checking their phones.
Yeah.
And so it may be, and some people may find it annoying if they get text messages about
Hmm.
parties and things like that, and that's fine. But they can
Yeah.
just reply stop and automatically
Yeah.
get opted out. And then now with a lot of the, text message, a lot of the regulation in like the SMS text message space, because I'm sure
Hmm.
you get a lot of text message spam.
Not anymore. Oh,
Okay.
I live in Norway, so it's like I think it's forbidden. It's like
Oh, okay.
really difficult to get like spam. There's like a lot of regulations around like how you can send someone like emails and even
Mhm.
like collect their data because it's
Yeah,
Europe.
like GDPR,
Yeah,
all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
And so basically in the US, we're still catching up. And so like carriers, especially, like, they've been cracking down on text message spam. But like I wouldn't say
Yeah.
like party promotions are spam, but like I get a
Hmm.
lot of text messages where it's like, hey Tom, this is Jill. How are you? And it's like, my name's not Tom. It's clearly someone that's like trying to
Yeah.
scam you or something. Because if you respond and say, "Oh, I'm
Hmm.
not this person," they'll be like, "Oh, well, anyway, like, how, like, can you help me?" Or I don't know. These people want
Yeah.
to engage you in a
They have your
conversation.
attention, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And so whenever I see those, I just report it as junk on my phone, and it goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I wouldn't say the text message promotions are like that, but basically carriers are cracking down on it though, and so they're requiring
Hmm.
people to opt in, and then you like saying in your messages like, "Hey, reply stop to opt out." Like, we're
Hmm.
getting, it's becoming more regulated space, which I think is
Yeah.
actually a good thing, because I think people should only receive content that they want.
Yeah. True. Did you try partnerships with like promoters? How, I mean, segue to that is how did the marketing, so the word of mouth marketing, like how do you do that? Do you know like all the promoters in SF?
Yeah, I don't know all
Do you
of
go
them,
to
but
do
I
you
know
go to all the clubs and all the
yeah,
bars? Yeah.
back in the day, I was like, these days, not really. Like, I got married like 2 years ago, so I've slowed down a lot.
Yeah.
But but yeah, back then though, like when we first started them, like me and my boy, we would yeah, we basically went to a lot of the bars and clubs, and like, or but the people who mainly use us aren't necessarily the actual establishments. It's the people that host the events at the establishments. So the
Yeah.
promoter, and generally the promoter won't be like the club owner. But some promoters, they didn't really see the value in it. But what's interesting though is people usually don't see the value in it until they try it, and then they're like, "Whoa!" Like there's this woman that we sent like code outreach to, like a code sales email, and our email pitch is like, we will let you we'll give you 500 free message credits. So basically that's like 500 messages. We'll give you that to try it out, just so you can see the value in it first, right? And 500 messages to us is like very cheap. It's probably not even $1. Let's see. Let me do the math quickly.
It's really a math.
Yeah, it's all right. It's like $4 for us to send. Like that's our cost of goods, right? It'll probably be like $4. So that's nothing. It's like, hey, for you to try it out, that's basically like me giving you $4. And so we tried it out. Literally within minutes, she's like, "Oh my God, I just got my first RSVP." After she sent out a message, and then like 20 minutes later, she's like, "I got 8 or 9 more." And so it's just like because she's able to like directly connect with the customers. But like people that are willing to try it out, or that may not necessarily see the value in it, they miss out on it. But it's like once you actually try the platform, like everyone loves it. Like all of our customers have stayed. Like we have a very high retention rate because people actually see the value in it. It's like, yes, it's more expensive, a paid marketing channel. Like, but if you're running ads, like some people run like Instagram ads, Facebook ads, they're also spending money. So it's like, why rely on the algorithm when you can just talk directly to people who have come to your events in the past? And I'm sure they say like it's harder to sell a new customer than upsell your current customers, right?
Current one.
So we think about this in the context of event promotions, where if you're an event promoter, it's easier to sell people that have been to your past events than new people that never heard of you. So that's just kind of how we think about it.
Yeah. Speaking of these email sequences, it seems like that one worked, right? Did you have to try like other kinds of like, value propositions in these sequences, some format of them? Do you do this yourself, or was it the salesperson that did that?
We tried like the salesperson doing it, but then we said, you know what, we can just do this ourselves. And so what we do, and like our main like target, I would say like our ideal customer profile is someone that uses Eventbrite for their events, mainly because we have the integration where we can sync over the registration data to our platform. We do have a CSV upload feature that anyone can use. So even if you don't use Eventbrite, but I think people that use Eventbrite get the most value. And so we had a sales guy for a little bit. It wasn't that fruitful. We spent like, a good bit of money, and this is like our personal money that we're like just experimenting with. Right? And so we're like, okay, we could just do this ourselves. So what we did is, one of my friends who's working on this with me, he basically built a script that will go and get all of the event. He will basically scrape Eventbrite's website. I hope they're not listening to this, but we did a little bit of growth hacking here, and we would scrape their website and basically get all of the event hosts on there. And then we had a resource or a person in like that we found on Upwork or Fiverr that's overseas, that we're able to basically have them find corresponding email addresses for these people, right? And then what we would do is we use something called Instantly. It's basically like it's an email sequencing platform. And so we put them all in Instantly, and then we have like a sequence of 3 emails that we send out over a week, basically saying like, hey, we see you have an event coming up. We would love to help you promote it using like text message marketing. And some people are like interested, others aren't as interested. But the thing is with Eventbrite, it's not really catered towards like parties or like even just like your regular event host. It's more anyone can create an event on Eventbrite. So say you're like a hospital and you're like, oh, we're having an event today to celebrate like say it's like Alzheimer's Awareness Month or something like that. They're not really trying to promote this. This is just an event they have, and they just tell people to register for it, but they're not promoters. And so they're outside of our target audience. And so for those, but
Mm-hmm.
right now we're just kind of like indiscriminately sending out cold email based. We're not really like filtering. We're not taking the time to actually like
Mm-hmm.
refine our target list. And so we do get a lot of rejections, but the people that do say yes, they usually see the
Yeah.
value in it, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think also probably because they have like the problem. Right?
Yeah.
Anyone that's hosted like events, I've tried like hosting events, um, not just like parties, but any other like tech event, and yeah, getting people that RSVP to show up. That's pretty much like um, that's very difficult. Something I'm thinking is I think like one of the really beneficial values that could come out of this is, the thing you said about having like Spotify playlists, right? So there's the infrastructure to send, but there's also like the strategy behind it. Like, hey, what if you add like a Spotify playlist? What if you add like this other thing?
Yeah.
Is that something baked into the platform, or is this something anyone else can just choose to say, um, here's what they want to do? I
Yeah.
think it
So
would be really valuable if there are like suggestions in
yeah.
your end.
And I agree, and that's something we haven't like built out because we haven't really gotten like I think it's a cool idea. We haven't like our customers haven't like directly said anything about that, and like the whole
Hmm.
Spotify playlist was just like with my friend and I who threw parties. We were like, oh, this would be cool, but I do think it could be applicable to other like promoters out there.
Yeah.
Um, and then also another thing that we were using it for, so not only just reminders, but then also
Hmm.
we usually have a photographer and a videographer at these events. And people love like seeing photos of themselves at these events, right?
Yeah.
And so what we would do is send out a link after the event and sit to everyone that like RSVP'd. And so some of the people that RSVP probably didn't show up, but they still got these text messages. And
Hmm.
we basically said, hey, thanks for we basically told them, thank you for coming out to our event. Here's a link to the photos. And it was like a link to like a Dropbox link or something like
Hmm.
that, where they can then, we'll say, hey, share on social media, tag,
Yeah.
tag Over the Top. That was like our party group. It was called Over the Top.
Yeah.
We tag Over the Top on Instagram. And so that was like our
Yeah.
way of growing the community in these parties,
Hmm.
because it's like people would see these photos and then they're like, oh, I need to be at that event. And so
The
it's kind of like
next one for sure.
exactly. So I see like the SMS strategy not only as reminders, but it's kind of like that growth loop. Like
Yeah. A kind of
e-
engagement piece.
exactly.
Yeah. Ah, that definitely just makes sense. So currently, what you do on the team? So you said you started this with your friends.
Yeah.
You have a day job. So do you still like code and code both ways, or you code this way and then you're like tech promoter
Yeah.
for
So
event-x?
yeah, so basically, I'm not even the coder on this project. So I'm a software engineer I guess I'm an engineering manager is my day job now. But
Hmm.
I haven't written a single line of code for event-x. So my two friends that I'm working with on event-x,
Hmm.
they are the ones that actually code. And I'm a very people person. I'm not your typical software engineer. I'm very like
Yeah.
social, and I love talking to people, and I really think sales is fun too. I used to be like
Hmm.
afraid of sales, not afraid of it, but I was like uncomfortable with it because
Yeah.
it just seems daunting. But or there's like the bad or the negative connotations of it's like, oh, sales, you're like scamming people or they're slimy and shisty. But I'm like,
Yeah.
helping people by giving them
Yeah.
value, and they're paying
Yeah.
you in exchange for that value. And so when I like, how I shared about that woman that tried our platform and got like a great
Hmm.
response, and like she got RSVPs, we were basically helping her realize value. And up front, we try to
Yeah.
give value up, we try to give value for free. So my role in the business for event-x is, and we don't have like titles, but basically I'm the salesperson. So
Yeah.
I'm the one. So my friend, like one of my, so there's three of us, and so one of
Hmm.
my co-founders, he and I, we set up the sequences, and then whenever someone actually responds to the sequence, I'm the person that they're communicating with. And then I either try to like set up a demo with them, or I will we have a self-serve way for people to onboard. But I find that people like the most success we've had is after someone saw a demo. So if someone sees
Oh,
it
okay.
and they see the power of it, and like and in the demo, I actually have them register for like a fake event that I create on Eventbrite.
Mm-hmm.
Then I send them a text message, and then they that's like the magical moment right there when they receive
Yeah.
that text message, and they're like, "Wow, this is really cool." And so and that's when they're like, okay, I'm interested. How do I sign up? They're like, they ask about
Yeah.
pricing, and from there it's an easy sale. If I can get you on a demo, it's an easy
Yeah.
sale. So
Yeah.
that's my role. But yeah, I don't code on this project though.
Yeah. That's interesting. So, one of the reasons we started this podcast was because sales is something a lot of folks in tech, especially like engineers, suck at, right?
Yeah.
Um, but you've made like that sort of like switch, at least on the side.
Yep. Yep.
How did you make this change? I mean, being like an extrovert definitely helped, but I figured like recently that a huge part of sales is beyond the just knowing how to relate with people. It's
Yeah.
like the structural bits, knowing like what an ICP is, who a
Yep.
buyer
Yep.
persona is, how to set up sequences, how do you manage like duration? Do you send 3 email sequences, 5 email sequences, stuff like that? So how do you make that switch, or sort of like how did you make that, like how did you adapt
Yeah.
to that role, and what were some of like the resources that helped? How long did it take as well?
Yeah. A lot of this stuff was like, yeah, it was like not intuitive to me. Like you said, like I was an extroverted person, but when it actually came to like selling, that part I had.
Yeah.
And so it came over like a few years of just like practice. But I would say how it started was I fell victim to one of those like free masterclass traps. And then you know how you see on like social media,
Yeah.
join my free masterclass to learn about XYZ thing. And then, basically that's them getting you in their funnel, right?
Word sale. Yeah, you got into the you were top funnel material at that time.
Exactly. So I saw how people were doing it to me, and I started to pick up
Mhm.
and like wise up on that. And I'm like, oh, this is what's happening. So it's like join my
Yeah.
free master class to learn about XYZ. And so there was this one guy I followed on social media. His name is Gerard Adams. He sold, like, I want to say his company Elite Daily to Daily Mail for like $50 million. And so this was like in 20. I heard of him, or I was following him, but this happened in like 2018, right?
Mhm.
And um, he was like, "Hey, if you want to be he made an Instagram post. If you want to be an entrepreneur," and I was like, maybe I'm 29 now, so I was like 23 at the time. And he was like,
Mhm.
"If you want to be an entrepreneur, I can show you how. Comment this to learn about it."
Yeah.
I was naive. I wasn't hip to how all this stuff works.
Yeah.
So I commented, and then he messaged me, and he was like, "Hey, I would love to learn more." He said, "I can connect you with like one of my best coaches or something like that." He connects me with his coach. I realize, William, it's a sales call when I get on it.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
he's talking to me, and he's telling me about he's telling me how like they can help me grow. They're like, "Hey, what
do
do
you
you want
want
to
to grow?
Yeah, exactly. What do you want to grow your
Yeah.
income to?" And they're like, "Where are you at now?" What I realized, they were sizing me up to see how much
Yeah.
money I had to pay.
You can get. Yeah.
So basically, I was like, this is an investment in me and all this stuff. And so basically, it was like $12,000 program. And I literally, bro, he sold me 12K on the first call. I
You
would never.
bought?
I bought. I would
Oh,
exactly,
damn.
exactly. I would never do anything like that ever again. But I
That's a
bought.
lesson.
It's a huge.
That's a very expensive lesson.
It is an expensive lesson, man. And so I was like, man. And so I was like, I gotta make it work. And so I'm like, already
Yeah.
paid. It was like one of those no refund type things. I told my friends about it. They laughed at me.
Oh.
I realize a lot of people try to sell you the game where all this stuff is like easily accessible elsewhere. But I got so much value out, or not. I wouldn't say I got value out of it, but I got some value out of it. But they had these different modules around selling and things like that. So that what the program was, it basically was helping people that do like coaching programs. So say people want to be like a fitness health coach, and they help you,
Yeah.
get fit. So I was like, okay, what would my business be? And so my business was teaching people how to build mobile apps.
Yeah.
So I wasn't like, I hadn't done anything like that. I mean, I have the experience and I've built apps on the side before, but I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I've already spent this $12,000. How am I going to get my money back? And so I was like, okay, I can have a program that teaches people how to build apps. So during that like winter break, I built this app called, or it was like a web app called Drakestagram. It was like a text, I mean, not text message. It was basically, you know how people on Instagram will use Drake lyrics as their captions on
Yeah.
Instagram. Have you seen that? So basically, what I
Yeah.
built, I scraped Genius's website and I basically put the lyrics in a database and all of
Mm-hmm.
Drake's lyrics, and then it was basically like a search, like Google, like if you
For
want
like
to say something
Drake's
about,
lyrics.
yeah, exactly. So
It's
you want to
feeling
say like
down today.
in Caicos or something like that, right? And then it'll
Yeah.
bring up a Drake lyric for that. And so that was huge. I posted that
Yeah.
on social media. It went kind of viral. It wasn't like huge viral, but for what I thought it would be, it went viral. And so that grew my personal
Mm-hmm.
brand. And that enabled me to talk about my coaching program, which was like, hey, I can teach you how to build mobile apps. And so there were a lot of people, because I get hit up all the time. And you're a software
Mm-hmm.
engineer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure you get hit up all the time by people that say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I have an app idea. I have an
Yeah.
idea."
Build it for me. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that, and I used to get that all, I mean, I still do get that all the time. And so I was like, okay, let me make this a business. And so I would start posting like lead gen videos. Like this is what they taught me in this
You
course, right?
became them.
I became them. I wasn't I wasn't as slimy. I wasn't slimy like them. I don't want to say as slimy.
Yeah.
I wasn't slimy like them. And so basically, I got a bunch of people that were interested, and I was charging like, and it was supposed to be like a 3-month course, and and these are non-technical people. I underestimated how difficult it would be to teach people how to like code. I thought it would be like just
Oh
straight,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I thought it was initially going to be 3 months, but after those 3 months were over, some people had progressed in the program, in my program, others not as much. But because I didn't want to seem like I was scamming people, I
Yeah.
worked with some people for almost a year, so they definitely got their
Oh
money's.
man.
They
Yeah.
definitely got their
You're
money's
just
worth.
too honest.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
needed
But
a bit more slime.
exactly. But my motto in life is to do right by people. And so, and I
Yeah.
feel like it always comes around. And some of the people that I worked with,
Mm-hmm.
like, I know to this day, and like at my last startup that I was at, like I was on the founding team of, we needed a QA
Yeah.
person. And one of my students, she leads QA at a
Mm-hmm.
tech company. And so I asked her if she knew anyone, and she like gave me someone that
Yeah.
was highly recommended. And so I feel like those relationships over money, I would choose
Yeah.
relationship every time. But through that process, though, I would have like, when I would post my lead magnets about, when I would post about like building apps and stuff, people would tell me they're
Mm-hmm.
interested. And then I would basically have a conversation, which was basically a
Mm-hmm.
sales call with them to understand what they were trying to build, all of that. And I was even scared to talk about the pricing because I'm like, I want to say I think I said 6K, or no, it wasn't 6K. Maybe it was like $2,000 for the program. Some people weren't even able to
Yeah.
pay it all. I was
To
like, hey, if
pay.
you're not able to pay it all, I can give you a deal. Because I'm like, there's no like set price. This is all just negotiation,
Yeah.
and everything is negotiable.
Yeah.
But through that process is where I learned how to sell and just get comfortable with it. And it's like there's no such
Yeah.
thing as like a wrong answer in sales. It's kind of like you're just
Yeah.
really building a relationship with people. You're trying to uncover
Yeah.
like what their problems are, and then you're just sharing how you can solve those problems. And then
Yeah.
at what cost. And if they're not able to, if they don't, and then one thing I had to learn was qualifying too, like qualifying
Yeah.
your leads or your prospects. So not everyone is going to be a good customer, right? Some people
Yeah.
may not have the problem that you have, so they're not qualified. Some people may not
Mm-hmm.
have the actual uh, means to pay you what your solution
Yeah.
costs, so they're not qualified. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn that. But before, I was like, man, I want everyone to be my customer, because I'm like, everyone's
Yeah.
my customer, the more money, but it doesn't work that way. And so I learned about like,
Yeah.
okay, qualifying people, why someone's qualified. So I learned so much there that I was able to
Yeah.
apply to event-x. So I know that was like a long drawn out story, but
Yeah.
I would say the $12,000 that I paid, although I didn't get all of that back in a monetary format, I
Yeah.
definitely learned that I will never do that again. One,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
learned like how to sell and get comfortable with it.
Yeah. I think it was worth it.
Yeah,
It was
absolutely.
worth it, but two things is I like to think if you paid $12,000 now, maybe in the future you could have paid 20 if you had the means. So it just saved you for paying more in the future. So you
Yeah.
paid just 12 now and you learned, not to pay that. And I think it also taught you what was possible,
Yes.
right? Yeah. That's also something you get from, things like this. You're like, oh, okay. So someone can actually pay $12,000 for this. That's you. All
Yeah.
right. So you're proof number one. And
Yeah.
then you start to learn like all these things on the side, from like lead generation to like the qualification you said. You talk about not just qualifying if they are a fit, qualifying if they're ready to buy, right?
Yes.
And when you start out in business, you think everyone can be your customer
Yeah.
because you think everyone that thinks your idea is great can be your customer.
Yep.
Yeah. But over time, you figure out that, oh, you just have to keep narrowing it down till you have like, you get to that sweet spot where you have, yeah, like an MQL or an SQL, so either a
Yep.
marketing qualified lead or a sales qualified lead. And they are your ICP, they are ready to buy, they are feeling pain, and it's like currently active and you can
Yep.
sell to them. Yeah. So
Exactly.
that's definitely what I think the 12K would, yeah, what's
Yes.
possible. I once paid like $2,000 when I started. It wasn't to learn because I've always been like, avoiding anything that has to do with like coaching. You want to coach me?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I would want to be. Yeah, I've learned a lot of things for myself. I taught myself to code, so I know I can learn anything. So I
Yeah.
always avoided coaching, but I paid someone to help us set up sequences. Right?
Mm,
I mean, I could learn how to set sequences, but the thing was, I didn't know if I was doing it right. It's
yeah.
like doing stuff without having a manager. So you
Yep.
don't know if this is the right way or the wrong way. You just know you're doing stuff. You don't know what success looks like. You don't
Yeah.
know what failure looks like, right? So that's why I think I paid 2,000 for. It wasn't for the sequences. It
To
was
learn.
more for here's what success looks like, and here's what failure looks like. And when I paid, I figured out that, 5, 6 months down the line, I wasn't doing the same sequences I was doing like way more. I was experimenting with like messaging, the kinds of like sequences. I was looking at like multi-touch sequences, not just email sequences. But that 2000, like that 2 grand I paid earlier, that was very, very valuable. It just told me, hey, here's what's possible. Here's what you
Yeah.
can do. Here are
And
tools you can use.
yeah, and I feel like it shortens your learning curve too, right? Instead
Yeah,
of
yeah,
you're able to get firsthand from someone who has that experience, and they were able to
yeah.
basically shorten the time of learning for you.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true.
I'm, I was gonna say, I'm curious, how did you learn about like all the sales stuff? Because you seem very
Uh,
well versed in it as well, right? And so I'm curious, like, where did you
uh,
learn this?
yeah, so I don't know. I I think I'm an extrovert as well, right? I
Okay.
think I'm good with people. That's the only talent I have, is just being able to like talk to someone and hold a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I have like a business background from like growing up. We used to have like a bar, and I worked there for like, about 7, 8 years. So I know how to handle like customers and people.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was like, yeah, I'm ready to do sales. And then when I started doing Hack Mama full time as an like entrepreneur, um, I started learning about like, okay, I have to do like sales. A lot of our initial clients came inbound. So there wasn't really much to do. You just get on the call. They already told you their problems. They told you everything. You just
Mm-hmm.
need to spit it back out
Yep.
and show them how you can help.
Yep.
And you've closed, right? So I closed like 90%, 90 to 95%, maybe 1 out of 10 leads that came inbound would drop, but I closed the rest. But
Yeah.
then I realized that if I want to scale this to be like, a 7, 8 figure business, I need to get a lot of like, I need to do a lot of outbound as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I did was, okay, so how do I do like cold emailing, right? I looked up like a bunch of YouTube videos. I knew what I could do, how it
Mm-hmm.
could be done. But again, I didn't know what was, I didn't know what was right or what was wrong, right?
Yeah.
And again, I didn't have like a holistic view of like an end-to-end sales process.
Yeah.
I had some inclination of what it looked like. I knew there was like a lead generation phase, a qualifying phase. I knew that if you know a lot about your prospect, it's easier for you to personalize whatever message you want to send to them. I
Yep.
just didn't know it was called like a qualifying phase or a pre-qualification phase.
Yep.
So I knew that whole bit existed. I knew there was like a negotiation phase where we're working towards like closing, where I'm like, talking to them about solutions. They have objections. I'm like
Yep.
countering those.
Objection
There was
handling.
this
Yep.
rough, yeah, there was this rough sketch of, but I didn't know if there was like some other process. Do I try like, is there like a method,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I know it has to be like sales is as old as the first businesses. So there has to be like some refined sales process or pitches and stuff like that. So I paid that 2 grand to set up that sequence. So now I know, okay, so this is what an expert thinks an end-to-end sequence should look like.
Yeah.
Um, I had a couple of calls. I spoke to the head of sales at the previous place I worked. He told me, "Hey, yeah, it's sales is great. It's difficult. You should just outsource it to someone else to do, like a company. But I don't have the budget to like go give someone like 15, 20 grand plus commissions each month."
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to just start doing this myself either way. So I started with the sequences.
Yep.
Um, and as I was sending those out, I was modifying from like LinkedIn messaging. I was thinking like, if I receive this message, would I open it? Would I read it? Um, I was also learning from like people trying to sell to me. That's also something else I did is,
Yeah.
if someone tries to sell something to me, I'm listening to them. If it's beneficial, I want to buy.
Yep.
But while I'm listening to them as William that wants to buy, I'm also listening to them as William that is being sold to.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, I'm listening to like how they're talking to me about my problems, the kind of questions they're asking me. If someone makes it to actually like closing a sale with me, I literally document like the end-to-end process as to why. I'm like, why did I buy from this person? Like,
Yeah.
what did they say? Someone calls me on the phone, a cold call. And if I stay on that call for more than 30 seconds, it's more of like an introspection at that point. I'm almost not listening to them selling like to me, telling me about stuff. I'm asking myself, how did I stay on this call for 30 seconds? Because I know I'm a very busy person. What did they say? What
Yeah.
did they open with? Like, how did they get me? Right. So I was sort of like a guinea pig. I was using myself as an experiment.
Yeah.
So I did learn a lot from that, from like getting cold calls. Cold calls are like a huge thing in Norway. So listening to people call me and they say something, I'm just being natural. But for in some way, I'm also like, evaluating how they like speak to me and the questions they ask me, and my responses as well.
Yeah.
So that was also like one way I learned. And yeah, I follow some folks on LinkedIn. I see like their take on from like cold emailing to just sales in general. I think a lot of them spew trash. That's something
Yeah.
I've noticed. Yeah, and they like generalize their techniques. They're talking about sales for like B2C,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
for a certain like industry, certain like category,
Yeah.
and you're listening to them. It absolutely doesn't apply to like a B2B agency,
Yep.
right? In absolutely no way. And if you talk to some of them, they're like, yeah, this should work. I know this works. It's LinkedIn. Everyone is right. Um, so I've had to pick up like, some techniques that work there. Folks are like, yeah, cold calling is the way. I tried cold calling. I know like, yeah, you shouldn't call like Americans, for instance. You can call people in Norway. They listen to you. Do
Why
not
not?
call the French.
Why you say why not Americans?
Yeah, because I think you get spammed with a lot of like cold
Yeah.
calls
I hate
from.
cold calls, but I was just curious. So, because
Yeah.
like whenever I get a cold call, I either don't answer, or if it's an area code
Mhm.
that I think, um, if it's an area code that like I think could potentially, like
Yeah.
maybe it's something important, I'll answer it. And then when I
Yeah.
answer, and they're like, "Hello, is this Kyle?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they're like, "Hey, I want to talk to you about." And if I feel like it's salesy, either I'm gonna say, "Hey, I'm not
Yeah.
interested." I don't even know what it is, but I'm just like, I'm not interested.
Mhm. Yeah. So I did get that like quite a bit. And then I just decided, okay, it's not the most, it's not the best use of my time.
Yeah.
Um, Trying to call like folks in France, they just like do not once you speak English, yeah, that's it. They
Yeah.
hang up. Folks in Norway are too polite to want to hang up. They want to like hear what you have to say. You get
Wow.
at least 10 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds with them. Yeah.
Wow.
So I learned all these. I learned that, with Americans, when you send an email, you have to like warm up to them.
Mhm.
You need to personalize it. You need to find a way to like get in their good books,
Yeah.
right? You need to offer something. You need to, yeah. Basically, there's all of that trying to build a relationship with someone you do not know via
Yeah.
email. This is with Americans. With Europeans, just go straight to the point. They already know you're going to sell them something. They're not trying
Yeah.
to be friends with you. They don't care about your cat or your dog. Just
That's
just sell them. Yeah, just say what you want to say, right? But you do not see a lot of these in, the I would say the tweets and the LinkedIn posts people make. They're like, hey, yeah, send this email, go through these steps. It's like introduce yourself briefly, here's put like social proof, talk
yeah.
about the problem, personalize it to them, close it strong. In fact, some will be like, go ahead and like suggest a time or like a date to meet to book a call. Some would say put a calendar link right away,
Mm-hmm.
right? So everyone has like a technique, and I tried a bunch of things. So I'm always trying like modifying emails. Like I'm watching maybe after 2 weeks, I send one. We have at some point we had open rates of like 90%
Mm-hmm.
on emails, right? But the reply rates were at like 1%.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so we're
Damn,
doing something good with like,
great open rate though. That's I mean, it sounds like you were doing something good.
yeah, yeah. So the open rate on the sequences were like 90%. The lowest was probably like 76%
Mm-hmm.
on open rates. We're personalizing. I tried like personalizations with AI, um, and some of it worked, some didn't work. Yeah, so I just keep trying stuff and like seeing what works, what doesn't work, and then I started thinking like, if I got this email, would I open it? Would I reply? I sent some emails and I got responses like, I typically do not reply to emails like this, but this was great.
Yeah,
What do you
yeah.
have to sell to me? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, I get those. And a last thing I do, a last way I learned was looking at my spam folder and seeing all the emails that ended up there. And
Yeah.
then starting to think like, why did these emails end up there?
This is
And
what I
those
don't want to do.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, I don't want to send an email like this with like this subject line or the content looking like this. Yeah, and all this I've only done in the last 8 months, 8, 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's when I started doing this full time. So it's been a lot of like learning, iteration, seeing what works, what doesn't work, just switching it up.
Yeah. Have you been?
I,
And you say your close rate is about like 90 to 95%.
so the open rates are like 90 to 95% on the emails.
Uh huh.
Something happened recently in like the last, I think, 1 to 2 weeks. I think Google's changed like their spam filters. They also like hit a lot of like the email sending providers. So like open rates just like tanked overnight. I'm still trying to figure out like how to get that up. So currently I'm running experiments with like
Yeah.
subject line and seeing like what works and what doesn't. But yeah, it's all like it's a learning process. I'm either learning with time or I'm paying to learn somehow.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's the thing too. I
Yeah.
think when we first started Event X, it was like, hey, I just want to be rich tomorrow, But I realized, over time, I'm like, it's a process, and it's
Yeah.
like you have to really
Mhm.
like hone in on that process, and like you
Yeah.
said, like, learn like all the salesy things to get people, and not salesy, but more so like the sales methodologies to
Yeah.
for people to understand your customer, to know
Mhm.
who your customer is, the qualification,
Yeah.
all that stuff, down to closing them.
Yeah.
And so but I think
Yeah.
sales is a valuable skill. And then just on the point that you mentioned around outsourcing sales, right? One is expensive, and then two, no one is going to know the product as well as you do. And so
Yes. That's
it's
true.
like it's like if you outsource it, it's like they may not even know. Like they may, yeah, you can like explain to them the problem, but they really won't know
Hmm.
it intimately as
Yeah,
you, and they won't be able to sell it as well as you can. But
yeah,
just because you know the problem space, and you know the people who have the problem so well.
yeah. That's right. And like with like you said with sales, even when we onboard someone to the sales team, not outsource but onboard a new hire, it takes them like 3 to 4 months to even like sell half as I would sell. So I would imagine if I would outsource this to like a sales organization that also have like other clients they're trying to
Yeah,
sell to, yeah, like how would they handle that? It's also a reason why I do not believe you could have a salesperson, or I feel you can't have a salesperson work part-time on your team.
yep,
That's also something I tried. It worked a little bit,
yeah,
right? So the learning, because the person was great, the learning was like really good. They did learn and like they ramped up. But following through with the sales and staying committed and staying like in mental space to make a sale, that's something that requires like full like commitment,
yeah.
as I've seen. Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
And I think final point on like sales, we're also coming up on time is I
Yeah,
spoke to like a sales rep at Hack Mamba recently, and we're typically, or at least folks new to sales are always scared of like reaching out, like cold outreach, and like how do I talk to someone, for the first time. And I tell them, see it as if you're walking on the road, someone in front of you, their wallet falls down from like their pocket or their purse, right? And you want to like you pick up the purse and you say, "Hey, here's your purse,"
yeah.
right? They'll take it from you and they'll say like, "Thank you," right? Because
Hmm.
you're giving them something beneficial. You're helping them. They wouldn't turn around and say no, like no, like get the fuck away from me, right?
Yeah,
Even if they turn around the first time and they're trying to be hostile, and maybe you show them like their wallet or their purse, like before you even say anything, they would um they would either like relax or like loosen up and
yeah,
be grateful, right? So sales is all about like helping whoever and just showing them value
yep.
from the very first conversation. Like that's how I see it so far, and yeah, it's been working. I'm hoping to close more deals, but it's still difficult, even with knowing all these. It's still a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree,
Yeah.
and yeah, I agree. And there were times, and there still are times where we're just like, man, because like I said, we've done 100K, but that's over 4 years, right? Like, I would love to do a 100K year, and like even this year, we're under pacing compared to where we were last year. We use
Hmm.
Stripe, so you
Yeah.
can see like the year to date comparison
Yeah.
from last year, and so we're down like maybe like 10% or so. And there's times I'm like, should we just like sell the business? But I'm like, no, this is cool. Like, it's fun though. And like
Yeah.
when you get a sale, it's just there's nothing like it, man. It's just like,
Yeah.
yes, it's like, wow, someone sees value in what I
Yeah.
build. It solves their problem. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're keeping it going, and yeah, it's fun, man.
Yeah. It is. Anyways, thank you so much, Kyle, for we've had like this was supposed to end like 15 minutes ago. It's gone on till now. So this was definitely an amazing conversation. I hope anyone else out there got something valuable out of this. But thank you very much. And if you're listening out there, you can hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. I don't know, somewhere down here. Um, and we'll see next next Wednesday on another episode. Do you have any final words to close us with, Kyle?
Just want to say thank you for having me, William. I enjoyed the conversation. This was really good. And just on the topic of code outreach, when you reached out to me, I was like, man, is this something I want to do? But I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
Why not? And
Yeah.
I've actually never publicly spoke about event-x before, like outside of like
Yeah.
my group. Um, and so this is a cool opportunity to share. So thank you for having me. And yeah, I wish you
Yeah.
the best on your journey as well.
Yeah, you too, man. I hope to bring you on when you're having like $1 million years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That'll be even more fun. And we'll
Absolutely,
have like nice progression on these stories, man.
absolutely, man.
Yeah. All right, man. I think we can call it a day, and thanks to everyone that's watched.